Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Healer Within. I'm so glad you're here, and I'm glad to be back in this space with you. If this feed has been quiet for a bit, it's because the universe recently demanded that I practice the exact shifts and pivots I help my clients navigate every day. As business owners, we talk all the time about strategy and agility, but life has a way of testing our alignment when the landscape begins to change. As some of you know, this past March, my son Reed lost his dad. My immediate non negotiable assignment was to step away from the mic and shield him, to help him find his footing and cross the finish line of his junior year of college while holding a space for his grief. At the same time, that heavy emotional lift collided with my own physical baseline. A rough flu season created a massive system overload for my neuroimmune condition, and my body essentially forced a mandatory pause for healing. When you couple personal crises with the necessary course corrections every entrepreneur must make during an economic downturn, you quickly realize that speed is not the same thing as competence. Sometimes the most strategic move you can make is to quiet the noise, protect your integrity, and anchor yourself before you try to anchor anyone else. Out of that quiet season comes a beautiful piece of news. I'm opening a second location for sensorium hypnosis and critical mindset group at Leaside Manor Adult Daycare and Respite in Arlington, Washington. About 8 years ago, I worked with the owners, Susan and Mark Lee, on a business development project. Over nearly a decade later, their vision has evolved beautifully. They've expanded to include space for hospice care, as well as long-term boarding for independent elders. And just a few weeks ago, they gave me the grand tour. It is a stunning, peaceful country setting on a 5-acre lot. Upstairs, they've built 8 private bedrooms, 4 with their own private bathrooms, all overlooking open green space. It's an absolute sanctuary, and it's exactly where I will be focusing my energy on supporting people through caregiver burnout, as well as grief and loss recovery. If you are local to the Seattle or Arlington, Washington area and would like to see this space, I've placed a link to Leaside Manor Adult Daycare Home and Respite, as well as my direct email address in the show notes. Drop me a line. I'd love to meet you there for a tour. The expansion into Leaside Manor ties directly into what I want to talk about today. It's a concept from a blog post I recently finished titled The Caregiver's Debt: 5 Spiritual Fractures of the Visionary Leader. This is specifically for the executives, the founders, the high-level healthcare professionals, the people who are compensated to be the smartest, most capable fixers in the room. Picture this, if you will. You are standing at the threshold of a high-stakes meeting. Your data is ready, your focus is sharp. You are entirely in your element. Then, the phone in your pocket begins to buzz. The GPS tracker shows that your father just missed his turn again. He's driving toward a highway he hasn't driven in decades. In that fraction of a second, your reality splits. Physically, you're holding the room in a corporate board meeting. Spiritually, you are chasing a silver sedan down a wrong exit. This isn't just stress from a heavy workload. It's a head-on collision between the enterprise you've built and the life that is fading right before your eyes. I call this the dark season, a space where your greatest asset, your relentless competence, becomes the very trap that keeps you stuck. Let's look past the standard surface advice and look at the 5 spiritual fractures that happen when a visionary leader has to carry the weight of caregiving. The fragmentation of presence. Leadership requires you to be all in, but caregiving forces a split presence. You are physically chairing a meeting, but your focus is tethered to a house across town or a medical facility across the country, waiting for the next phone call. This isn't a time management flaw, it's a spiritual leak. It leaves you feeling half present in every room you enter, draining the energy you need to operate. And there's the betrayal of the finish line. I recently worked with a nurse who spent over 30 years navigating 12-hour shifts and high-level supervisory pressure. Just as she arrived at the finish line of her hard-earned retirement, her family looked at her professional background and simply assumed she would seamlessly swap her new freedom for the daily oversight of her mother's medical care. When your personal goals are sacrificed on the altar of family expectation, it creates a specific kind of burnout. The unvoiced grief of a stolen future can become an absolute poison if it's left unaddressed. Now, the ego's battle with the unfixable. As high achievers, we are optimized for outcomes. We build systems, we execute plans, we fix things. But you cannot strategize your way out of a parent's memory loss or physical decline. The exhaustion high achievers face usually comes from the friction of the inner fixer trying to force a win in a season that actually requires surrender. Then there's the capable sibling syndrome. Because you have always been the anchor, the family dynamic naturally defaults to you for the heavy lifts, the legal decisions, the financial burdens, the emotional containment. It creates an incredibly isolated kind of leadership fatigue, though. You are expected to be the rock for everyone else's storm, but no one stops to ask who is holding up the rock. Your strength then becomes your cage. Perhaps the quietest fracture is the loss of the person who used to be your independent support system. When the parent who once provided you with a safe space to land becomes the one who requires your constant guidance, it leaves a massive vacuum. You aren't just losing an independent elder. You are watching a piece of your own identity shift in real time. I call this the erosion of the spiritual confidant. Now, standard caregiver advice stays on the surface. It tells you to take a deep breath, use a planner, or download an app, and let technology handle the monitoring. But if your mind is already running at maximum capacity, you don't need more electronic reminders adding to your monitoring anxiety. And you surely don't need another to-do list. You need a return to spiritual agency. Through spiritual hypnotherapy, we go right underneath the fixer mentality and the old scripts of obligation and guilt. We stop focusing entirely on the logistics of the crisis and start looking at the person behind the professional title. Healing in this season doesn't mean the crisis miraculously disappears. It means you develop the internal anchor required to stand in the middle of the gale without being swept out to sea. If you are feeling that fracture today, remember, your peace is worth protecting. You do not have to set yourself on fire just to keep everyone else warm. If you are ready to put down the fixer script and reclaim your autonomy, let's connect. I invite you to visit my new website, criticalmindsetgroup.com, which operates as an affiliate of Sensorium Hypnosis. We specialize in tailored dark season stress support specifically designed for C-suite executives, business leaders, and entrepreneurs. Whether you're navigating a corporate storm or you are a nurse, doctor, or family caregiver wanting to explore how hypnotherapy and energy healing can rebuild your boundaries, everything you need is right in the show notes below. I've placed a direct link there to schedule a consultation with me. And until then, take care of your spirit, keep your footing, and I will see you next time on Healer Within.